Have you ever felt like the world is more divided than ever? Neighbors hating neighbors, families splitting up over politics, and tons of endless outrage on TV? It's not an accident. The legacy media channels CNN, Fox, MSNBC, along with the major newspapers, are controlled by a handful of billionaires and corporations, deliberately fueling this hate. Why? To keep everyday people fighting each other instead of the real power above that's hidden. This is classic divide and conquer. And it's blasting our minds. Legacy media isn't free press, it's concentrated in a few hands. In 2026, a tiny group of families and corporations dominate. The Murdoch family run Fox News and the Wall Street Journal, while the Ochs-Sulzberger family firmly control the New York Times. Comcast owns NBC and MSNBC. Disney owns ABC. Paramount and CBS have been merged and controlled by the Ellison family. That's not to mention the other plateaus the Ellisons own as well. Over half of top media companies have billionaire owners. They shape what you see, hear, and fear, not for truth, but to protect their power and profits. Divide and conquer is an ancient strategy, but modern media has perfected it. They amplify extremes on purpose. One side is fed endless culture war outrage over immigration, identity, guns, and similar flashpoints. The other side is bombarded with fear-mongering about threats to democracy. Both sides rage at each other while the elites laugh. Inequality keeps growing, wages stagnate, healthcare costs soar, but the fight stays horizontal, where people are against people, never upward against the real architects of the system. The psychological effects are brutal. Constant negativity spikes stress, anxiety, and depression. Negativity bias makes us crave more outrage because the algorithms reward it. Empathy erodes until we see the other as enemies instead of people who share the same struggles, jobs, bills, family. Trust collapses completely. People stop trusting not only the media but also their neighbors, co-workers, and even their own families. This is not random, it is engineered. Oligarchs use the media to distract from their real agenda: tax cuts for the rich, deregulation, monopoly power. The top 1% now own more than the bottom 90% combined. The mental toll is severe: increased depression and anxiety from endless doomscrolling, polarization that reinforces tribalism, and the dehumanization of anyone who thinks differently. While we fight over culture, they quietly consolidate wealth. Everyday people suffer the most within divided communities, broken relationships, and, in its place is a lost feeling of despair. Deep down we all want the same basics: safety, dignity, a fair shot at life. Yet the media turns us into enemies. A great example of that was in a scene in They Live where John Nader and Frank Armitage infiltrated their way into an underground base, where they met one of the campground's residents that Frank invited John back to. Later, however, it seems the spiffy former camp resident is now sporting fancy threads, bow tie and all, and takes both Nader and Armitage in the staging area of a live media news broadcast show. They soon realized the rest of the public was being heavily manipulated. The good news is that we can break free. The first step is recognition. When the news makes you hate the other side, pause and ask yourself, who benefits from this anger? Seek common ground instead. We are all everyday people, workers, parents, and neighbors who simply want to live peacefully. Diversify your sources and read beyond the legacy echo chambers. Talk to real people, not screens. Reject the hate and focus on shared struggles: the economy, healthcare, basic fairness. Empathy defeats division every time. Reclaim your mental sovereignty by limiting toxic news intake and building unity rather than feeding outrage. A well-stated notion. In fact, it was something that caught the attention of director John Carpenter. He directed the sci-fi flick dubbed They Live 1988. And the purpose of that was to express the dislike he had during the Reagan administration. He was openly fed up with the direction of American society under Ronald Reagan's administration, particularly the unchecked rise of consumerism, corporate greed, and media manipulation that he saw as tools for keeping the masses docile and divided. Basically, Carpenter described the film as a direct middle finger to Reaganomics and the yuppie culture of the 80s era. So he made a statement that nobody else seemed willing to make so bluntly. To him, the aliens aren't literal extraterrestrials that's portrayed in the film. Carpenter was actually using them as a metaphor for the ruling elite, the ultra-wealthy, corporate owners, and political insiders, who exploit the working class while hiding behind a facade of normalcy. So the subliminal messages shown in the 80s sci-fi flick with terms like obey, consume, marry and reproduce, no imagination, submit, and what about those pictured on billboards, magazines, and TVs? Well, they were telltale signs of Carpenter's way of showing how advertising, media, and consumer culture brainwashing people into compliance and mindless buying. He was pointing out all of the purposely used distractions that keeps them from focusing on the real inequalities and power imbalances. He explicitly tied it to Reagan's America, where the rich got richer by keeping the middle and working classes distracted, compliant, and fighting among themselves rather than questioning the system. He was repulsed by the media's dirty smear tactics, and how they pushed the idea of consumerism that converted the public into passive cattle. Those were his thoughts about the matter. From the interviews he participated in, they live screams bred for exploitation. Or this movie has implanted secrets purposely embedded to spike the level of curiosity in its viewers. The movie's B-movie style and over-the-top action were intentional. He wanted it to be entertaining and accessible so the message could sneak past defenses. But he was dead serious about the critique. No, this ties into another secret embedded sci-fi flick, Videodrome. This was directed by David Cronenberg, which was in theaters in 1983. Cronenberg took direct aim at the television screen, and how it serves as the retina of the mind's eye. Therefore, the television screen is part of the structure of the brain, which is one of the most eerie statements the character Dr. Oblivion makes in cinema history. Oblivion was a media guru who exists mostly as a video image. He literalizes Marshall McLuhan's idea that media are extensions of the human nervous system. Cronenberg takes it full-body horror, extreme prolonged exposure to violence. TV signals Videodrome causes tumors, hallucinations, and physical mutations. So in retrospect, think about these type of movies that came to theaters, and the types of messages they were indirectly pushing, to warn viewers about the media establishments setting out to fill their mind with a narrative to serve the higher-ups put in charge. And the aim and purpose of the old school legacy media is a mirror image of what one ex-dictator was quoted saying decades ago: if you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed. So this is all about the new flesh, hence the term technology, that's destined to merge with AI tech. Videodrome took an indirect alignment to point out how the media doesn't just influence perception, it was able to rewire one's biology and psychology, turning viewers into programmable oppressed tools that can be controlled. But the mainstream media is dying out. It's run its course, and now comes the new kids on the block. The known as minor to intermediate online-sized news syndicates that are in and judging from all of the drop in viewership of the CBS's, the NBC's, the ABC's, or whatever the case may be. Their days manipulating the public are next to done. And that scares the crap out of them. Yeah, they know the only way they can compete is to fight fire with fire. Although it isn't going to be easy for them whatsoever. And the reason why it's going to be extremely tough for them to continue gaslighting the viewers is due to the fact their base of audience has shrunk, and it continues to dwindle. But directors like Carpenter and Cronenberg really dove deep into exposing the manipulation tactics used in various forms of media. And Carpenter took it a step further to make the point abruptly clear, having John Nada destroy the facade that fueled the old flesh, or the old media. It's the opposite, where Cronenberg set the stage to introduce the new flesh using Max Ren to kick off the revolution for change. So what's left is the new choice, where people have chosen alternative media that's void of subliminal messaging, because viewers are tired of all the enforcement. The sick and tired of being told lie after lie as if they should accept remaining obedient and swallow the toxic consumption pushed to them on a daily basis. No, it looks like they're done. Those oldies classic sci-fi flicks finally helped pull back the curtains of illusion that kept people divided and hating each other for decades. They helped to jailbreak your mind free of the dystopian signal that requires them to reject the fee altogether. As for Dr. Oblivion's character in Videodrome, well, he was spot on how manipulative media would become normalized in today's world. Because everywhere you search online, you're seeing social media algorithms amplifying outrage for engagement and mass profit. The deception is so blistering and slick, it allows legacy news outlets to continue shaping narratives for both corporate and elite interests. So the hints were always there, we just didn't always want to see them, even if John Nada tells someone, "Hey, put on those sunglasses." Yeah, because people tend not to believe they're being deceived, until it's revealed to them in a unique way. Gotta admit, it would be a whole heck of a lot easier, it would be revealing the truth with a badass pair shades like that at one's disposal. Nevertheless, more people are catching on to the deception, even without a pair of truth exposure glasses to help them out. Because today's new flesh is alternative online media wielding truth with more magical finesse than even Merlin wand can muster up. So if you liked what you heard today about how old school media set out to divide and conquer society, then smash that like button. Make sure to subscribe to Mind Blast Mechanics, where we dive deep into the observations that matter. Don't miss our next video, so make sure to tap that bell. Thanks for watching.